Hour is late, so let us begin. We're learning about salting and pickling on Shabbos, and I had a lot of homework to do, and I don't remember all the homework I had to do. So I'll just address what I remember. So first of all, the question was asked about pickling on Yontif, or more specifically about salting on Yontif. Salting fruit, vegetables on Yontif. Pickling on Yontif, it would seem. כן, עוד מעט, נגיע. עכשיו אני מלמד תורה שבעל פה. So, pickling on Yontif, it would seem, is a problem, because pickling could have been done before Yontif, and it would taste even better. You know what I'm saying? To actually pickle. Actually, you know what? I take it back. Forget about it. If pickling looks like cooking, and you're allowed to cook on Yontif, I guess you're allowed to pickle on Yontif too.
But pickle will take about a week or months to
No, some you can make in 24 hours.
That's it? So how can you make it Shabbat for Sunday? Doesn't make sense. Right?
That's another problem. But even if you make on Friday night for Shabbos afternoon, also.
It can be also good.
I don't know.
It should be more than a week to make it really good. Right?
Everyone has its style.
I remember my mom was sitting in the water for a long time.
No, but some of them you could make quickly.
Quickly?
Some of them you can.
Okay.
So the Mishnah Berurah says, actually the Ramah says in Hilchos Yontif, that you are allowed to salt many pieces together, pieces of vegetables together on Yontif. V'yesh machmirim. So, what's the yesh machmirim? The yesh machmirim is because even though it's the tzarech achila, and the tzarech achila on Yontif you can do things with tzarech achila. Nevertheless, the Mishnah Berurah says that since there is a permissible way to do it, which is do one at a time, and remember this is considering that salting could look like ibud. If it's only a question of bishul, well, you're allowed to cook on Yontif, so it looks like bishul, no problem. Bishul is perfect. But if it's ibud, which is what Rashi says, so then ibud is forbidden on Yontif. It looks like ibud, it's a problem. Now, for that being said, if that would be the only way to do it, okay, tzarech la'achol nefesh. But since there is another way to do it one piece at a time, prefer to do it one piece at a time. L'chatchila, that is the psak of the Mishnah Berurah, to do one piece at a time. If you have, vegetables you wanna salt, instead of salting them all together, salt them one piece at a time. Again, this is not without any dressing. If you have dressing, that's a whole nother head. So that was one issue. Another issue. Sorry? No ibud on Yontif. No ibud on Yontif, no. Ibud means to tan leather. There's no heter for that on Yontif. It is processing the skin and turning it into leather. What you do when you tan the leather is you draw the moisture out of the skin, and that dries it and eventually turns into leather. Now that's also on Yontif. That being said, since you're allowed to shecht on Yontif, they do give you ways out to be able to preserve the skin. So, because otherwise people will hesitate and not shecht, then they won't have fresh meat. You know what I'm saying? So they basically say you could salt the meat that you have to salt anyway, salt it on top of the skin, so that the salt falls on the skin. You know what I'm saying? It's like a way out of it. I'm sorry.
Make a difference?
It preserves it, so it shouldn't go bad. When you're salting the meat on Yontif, which you're allowed to do, you shecht on Yontif, you salt the meat, and you cook it, right? So when you salt it, that's from the upsharnish.
Okay.
Enjoy. So when you salt it, you can salt it on top of the skin so that the excess salt will fall on the skin and will preserve it.
It's another way to salt it. You cannot go directly to the meat.
You can salt the meat, yes, but not I'm talking about on Yontif, not on Shabbos.
Yep.
Yontif. But you can't salt the skin because that's ma'abed, but you can salt the meat when it's on top of the skin. And that way you'll also save the skin from going bad. Understand?
Oh, you cannot remove the skin because it's.
You can remove the skin, bakasha. Of course. How are you going to eat it?
You remove it and then
remove
you
the skin, and the skin is lying there on the floor. If you just leave it out like that, it's going to go bad.
You don't want it.
You want to make it into you throw away the skin. What are you talking about? Where? How are you going to make skin, or show behema? How are you going to have shoes to wear? How are you going to have a leather jacket, a belt, all these things, your couches, your car seats?
Wow.
Not shumanim, from the skin.
They make it?
Or, what do you mean? Telling you a chiddush. So you can salt the meat on top of it. Anyway, that's all a side point. Another thing that we were discussing yesterday and trying to figure out, and we didn't have much clarity about, was this whole issue about pickling in vinegar, because basically it says, we said that you could salt a salad as long as you pour the vinegar over the salt right away, or even better, put this vinegar on first so that the salt doesn't have the full effect on those vegetables.
You're allowed to put oil as well?
Oil too, yeah, for sure. Oil is even better. Oil is even better because oil is like a film, it makes a block. So it'll block between the salt and the vegetables. So it won't affect the vegetables so much. Excuse me.
That's why they put the oil in the salt and in the salad?
No, they put it because it tastes good. But I don't know. I don't know exactly. But the point is that the question was, why is the salad dressing itself not like pickling? Somebody was asking. Ronnie was asking. I mean, if you leave this salad in the dressing long enough, it kind of gets soggy. I don't know if that's the same as pickling.
You don't like that.
No, you don't like it, but who said that's not pickling? This was his question. I'm just repeating the question.
I think the pickle is for manufacturing.
So I'll just tell you what they answer. What the answer is that you don't pickle in a little bit of dressing. You pickle, you fill up the jar. Don't just pickle in a little bit of dressing. That's not the way to pickle. So that's that. I'm sorry?
However, the way of pickling is, over here, if it still is pickling, so
it's not pickling. What do you mean it's not pickling?
So I've said it could pickle.
It doesn't really pickle. It just turns soggy.
Not because the way it's going on, it doesn't do it.
Yeah, well, maybe on the bottom there's a little bit of it that stays in the dressing, but that's not the way of pickling. You know what I'm saying? You want to pickle, you pickle, you put a little bit of dressing in it. I don't know.
Sorry, I just
Sorry?
You pickle straight with vinegar.
Yeah, maybe vinegar, maybe salt water. I don't know, but you don't just put a little bit of dressing on it. You pickle it in it. You soak it in.
I just joined. Did I miss something?
A few things, yeah. First of all, we said on Yantif Minadin, you're allowed to salt a few pieces together, but it's better to salt them individually since you can. We also said that putting salad dressing on something is not considered pickling, because pickling you soak it in it. You don't just put a dressing on it. In fact, I was looking for what you mentioned yesterday, Yossi, about sauerkraut. If you're allowed to make coleslaw in advance. So basically, Rabbi Farkash discusses what is the shear of pickling. what is a shear? How long does something have to stay in something else to be considered pickled?
Do we
So
say,
he said this. Sorry.
do we say 24 hours for things?
Oh, so in Hilchos Isaveta we have in Isaveta we have the concept of 24 hours, but that's by water to become kavush in water. But in vinegar it could be considered kavush even earlier. So actually, what he brings two opinions. Some say 24 hours, as far as this is concerned, and some say that it's basically any amount that is going to affect it in a way that makes it taste like it's pickled, but definitely from one meal to the next, he says is not considered pickling. So that would seem to take care of your coleslaw issue, yes. He says as long as you do it from one meal to the next, and it's in between meals, not for longer than that, he says that's not considered pickling.
So that's 6 hours, is it?
Something like that, I guess.
And for the Dutch people, 1 hour.
Whatever. A comment. So I'm just doing some issues that we discussed yesterday, just trying to clear them up. Torah Sheba'al Peh. Another thing I came across, something very interesting, is that you asked me about the salad dressing, but they say pickling has to be covering it, not just a little bit of dressing on the bottom. That's not called pickling. That's what I just said before. So an interesting point is that they say, why is it that when it comes to cooking in the sun, which is mamish, the heat of the sun, we say it's no problem on Shabbos. Go for it. Here, where you're pickling, it seems so different than cooking with heat, yet that is asr. It's unusual. So basically they say that at the end of the day, cooking in the sun is unusual and pickling is not unusual. So therefore, because it's a usual way of preparing food, and it does prepare it from being raw to being, having a different flavor, similar in a way that is similar to cooking.
In the sun?
So therefore, no, not in the sun. And the sun is unusual. Nobody cooks in the sun. That's why, even though it cooks it, but Chazal didn't make it also. When it comes to pickling, because that's not unusual, so and now that's not the same way they did in the Mishkan, so it's not actually the Raisa, but because it's not unusual, Chazal did include it. And now, my friends, we come to an interesting heter that I came across, which kind of knocks a lot of this all off the table. So first of all, some say that this whole thing of pickling is only shaykh to vegetables that are pickled. Vegetables that are normally pickled, that's a problem. Vegetables that are not normally pickled, it's not a problem. Certainly that's the case if it's something that you see that salt doesn't affect it in a way that is similar to pickling. I mean, that's the reason, by the way, that like we're going to see, these halachas do not apply to cooked foods. You're allowed to salt your baked potato. You're allowed to salt your meat, your cooked meat. You're allowed to salt your eggs, like we're going to discuss soon.
What?
No, we're not. You have an egg, salt it. You want to eat your meat, it's not salty enough, salt it. No problem. That's not pickling because you don't. The salt doesn't change it in any significant way. So if there's a vegetable that is like that the salt doesn't affect it, for example, I just saw somebody says avocados, that's not going to be a problem. Then I saw an even bigger chiddush. I think I saw this in Reb Shlomo Zalman, in the Shmir Shabbos. That if you do it, maybe not. Oh, here it is in the 39 Malachos. If you do it in a way that particular vegetable is not pickled, it's also not going to be a problem. Meaning to say, sliced tomatoes. Nobody pickles sliced tomatoes. A whole tomato, yes. They make pickles out of whole tomatoes. But sliced tomatoes, nobody pickles. So that's going to be mutter.
Put salt on.
To put salt on. Now, lettuce, I don't think anybody pickles lettuce b'chlal.
Yeah, they do.
See in the Isser, I'm not putting salt on lettuce. But sugar.
Well, people do
Carrot.
pickle sauerkraut. So
Also
maybe
carrot,
lettuce is like the same species. I don't know.
Rabbi, they do carrot.
They do
also
carrots,
carrot.
yeah. They do carrots.
if you go
I've seen
to-
it. Yeah, I've seen it.
Also the croup, the croup they do also.
Yeah. Sauerkraut they do. Cabbage. Anything that they do, even if it's cut, then it's a problem. But if it's the thing that they don't do when it's cut, then he says it's not a problem. It's just
So carrot is a rocket?
no, I think they do it. I think they do pickle
Yes,
carrots.
yes.
I've seen it.
I seen too.
I've seen
But
it.
if I want a carrot in my home, I cannot put salt in it?
You cannot put salt and leave it in the salt. You put salt and you eat it right away.
Oh, either right away is no problem.
Yeah.
Grapefruit and sugar.
Oh, grapefruit and sugar, you asked yesterday. Shmuel asked. So actually,
Before we touch that, if I put salad and the carrot pieces inside the salad, it's no problem.
no problem. Because the salad dressing is blocking the power of the salt. That we said yesterday, and we'll discuss it more today. That you don't leave it in the salt. You put the salt in and then you put the dressing right away, or vice versa. But you don't leave it in the salt alone. Okay, so with sugar,
Do you have to eat the sliced tomatoes right away?
no, that's what he's saying, because it's
Do you have to eat the sliced tomatoes right away?
no, he's saying it doesn't look like pickling because it doesn't pickle. So that's not the
So you
way
can
of
just leave it.
pickling. You can just leave it.
Oh, wow.
It's a big chiddush, but that's what he says. He says the same thing as peeled cucumbers. Because these vegetables are only pickled in their peel.
This is Rav Farkash?
No, this is the 39 Malachos,
Are
Ribiak.
these from Rav Farkash?
I didn't
okay.
see it in Rabbi Farkash. I didn't see it. I didn't finish that chapter, to tell you the truth. Let me see. I'm sorry? Yep.
So when you're preparing, you're putting salt in it, happens that the sun hits the window to your kitchen.
I didn't discuss the sun in the context of salting. There's two things. There's cooking with the sun, that's mutter, and there's pickling, that's asa. I was just pointing out, they discuss it. Why is it that the sun is mutter when that's heat, and the salt and pickling is asa when that seems so different? You know what I'm saying? I wasn't discussing the sun and pickling. It's two separate things.
In the sun.
Leaving in the sun is mutter. Mutter. Nothing to do with salting. Stam, if you want to heat something in the sun, it's mutter.
Exactly the salt, I mean.
If it's forbidden because of the salt, the sun is not going to make it better. You understand? If you're doing it in a way that's forbidden, based on what we're doing, we're saying, because you leave it in the salt for too long, then it's a problem, whether it's in the sun or not in the sun. The sun doesn't make a difference for that.
Sun Mechamed Veria is the same thing? Because we learned about the egg, and you cannot cook it, Mechamed Veria once ago.
Chamet Tveria is not like the sun. Chamet Tveria is Tuldas Chama. It's Tuldas Chama. Or maybe it's Tuldas Ur. It's a machlokes in the Gemara. It's Tuldas Chama or Tuldas Ur. Because some say that Chamet Tveria are heated because of the Pesach Shal Gehenna. They pass over the entrance of Gehenna. There's a fire there, whatever that means. and that's what heats them up. So it's tulda sa'ur, some say. It's like that. It's like the lava, maybe, coming up from Hawaii. Maybe that's the saying that the inner heat of the sun, the heat of the core of the earth, not the sun, the earth. Maybe that's the fire that we're talking about. I don't know. I'm not sure what they mean exactly.
You ever see that Russian video of somebody screaming? I'll send it to you. They found like a big, they were escaping. Digging. And they with not a microscope, but a hearing utensil, and screams. I don't know, the famous thing going around.
I don't know. Didn't hear it.
Yeah. I don't know, forgot exactly what it was. Not sure.
All right, so here's the thing, Rabbi Isai. Putting sugar on fruit. So if the issue of salting fruit, vegetables is an issue of ibud, then there's no problem of putting sugar on fruit. Because it doesn't look like ibud. We don't do ibud with sugar.
Only if you boil it.
Ibud with skin?
You take a apple and you put sugar and you boil it, as it will be honey.
Boiling on Shabbos.
Oranges, with
I'm not talking about boiling on Shabbos because we don't boil on Shabbos.
Right.
I'm talking about putting sugar on a fruit. So if it's something, if the whole, we said there's a machlokas, what's the issue with pickling? Is it like ibud or is it like bishul? Rashi says like ibud, Rambam says like bishul. If it's like ibud, sugar is not like ibud because we don't use sugar for ibud. If it's like cooking, so any fruit that is preserved normally through sugar, I'm just telling you what the Poskim say, I think it's Mishlam Zalman, but Farkash brings it down. Any fruit that is normally preserved with sugar, you should not put sugar on it unless you follow the rules for vegetables, meaning to say one at a time and eat it right away. Because otherwise it will look like you are preserving that fruit. And maybe to a small extent you even are if you do it in large quantities or if you don't eat it right away and so on. One at a time. One at a time. One at a time. One half a grapefruit at a time. One half a grapefruit at a time. Don't, if you're serving it to guests, maybe it's not so simple for them to put it, you know what I'm saying? Each guest, right before they eat it, not in advance. So, Bishul. He only says it if it's
sugar and the salt when you're adding it to those specific vegetables, just to take, let's say, the natural flavor away.
So here's the thing.
Let's say if it's onion or radish, you put salt just to make it more edible.
No, let me explain.
You put sugar on the grapefruit just to make it more enjoyable to eat it.
Let me explain.
How do you reach from this?
Let me explain. So in general, there are some fruits that are actually preserved with sugar. They make preserves. You know what I'm saying? Jam, they preserve the fruit with sugar. That's how they do it. Now, the truth is they don't just put it in sugar. They also cook it. It's the whole thing. But in the end of the day, they are preserved with sugar. So to actually preserve it with sugar, to put so much sugar in it that it preserves it, is actual kovish kuvashim, is actual pickling. Right? It's like actual pickling. But if you put sugar on a lot of them, or you leave it in sugar for a long time, then it looks like pickling. Just like when you're salting it. You know what I'm saying? You're not actually pickling. You're just putting it on, a few pieces together and you're going to eat it right away. You're making a salad. You're not making pickles. But because that's the way people make pickles, it looks like it. Understand? Looks like it. So that's the issue.
Those things that you put sugar or salt, previously it was allowed to. If you have left over, you can keep it.
That I don't know. I do want to point out one thing, that what he says about sugar is only the types of fruits that are preserved with sugar. So the truth is I don't know about grapefruits. I don't know. He says it about cherries. Sorry? Rabbi Farkash. Apricots. Pre-hadar, citrus fruits. I guess a grapefruit is a citrus fruit. And what? I don't think so. I think he's quoting Shlomo Zalman.
Wait. If you have
I would like to.
Three more. Bring. Can you bring three?
I'm working on it. I'm only one.
Okay, so now you 8. 2 more. Well,
Commit to my. If I know we have Mina, I will not come later. But
I can send a text. People don't usually respond.
so
I
we'll
can
do
send-
Mincha and
I can send it. Mincha is not going to happen.
Why
It
not?
never happens.
Why
In
not?
all my years of doing this program, it doesn't happen. People don't come
Try
on
a
time.
different time. 6 o'clock with the Mincha. Right now it's the perfect timing.
6 o'clock?
Sometimes it's 6 o'clock Mincha.
You want to come here 2 hours early for me?
No, I mean you try when it's 6 o'clock. Try when it's right now 6:45.
Ma'ariv is possible, but I'll try. We'll try for next week. Okay.
Yeah, Mincha is anywhere between 7:20 and 7.
7:45 you can do Mincha, Rabbi.
Yeah, but
Yes, you can.
people
Right?
are gonna come
You
around.
can, yes,
No,
you
we
can.
do. I do. It's 8:50, 7:50 at
Pass me a yarmulke.
7:50. We're doing in Israel, so we can do here 7:45. Why not?
I'm down to 16. You have problem?
Baruch atah
No,
Adonai
no
Eloheinu
problem.
melech haolam barim v'nimtzei
It's
Israel.
Man,
Just going to cut this.
you understand what I'm trying to say? If it's coming,
Bakasha. Yeah, from the Upsharnish. A taste of the Upsharnish.
New or harsh? You get 2 more bags?
yes, it's easy.
Let me see next door. To the Simcha next door.
Yeah, Mazal Tov.
Ready to start now?
Yes,
Just get a couple of guys.
If you can come in an hour, it will be even better.
1.5 is good. One in Bar Mitzvah.
All right. With that, we can continue. Okay. So, is there anything else I have to share? Was there anything else I had to answer from yesterday? Any questions? Oh, yes. The question was asked yesterday. I don't even remember how we came to it, about crushing herbs, spices, pepper on Yom Tov. Right? I think Yossi asked it.
I said that I understood you could do pepper. You said it had to be with a shinoi.
So basically, there's 2 opinions about that. Some say that you can do it without a shinoi, because freshly ground pepper is better than ground pepper from before. Some say no. Some say that because the difference is very slight between freshly ground pepper and pepper a day old, it's a very slight difference. So therefore, you should do a shinoi, unless it's something that you couldn't have known about before. Meaning to say, if it was a dish that you were planning to make in advance, and you didn't grind the pepper before, then you have to do it with a shinui. But if you just decided Yom Tov morning, I'm going to make this and that, or you had new guests that you weren't planning on having, so now you have to make more. So then you're allowed to do it without a shinui. The Ma'aseh Alter Rebbe recommends to always do it with the shinui because it's not so clear when you know you're going to have it, you don't know you're going to have it, and because of that question, and because of the second opinion that says that in general, because the difference is not so great between freshly ground pepper and not freshly ground, he recommends to do it with the shinui. But the shinui there is a very small shinui.
Like switching hands?
Oh, no. The examples he gives there is either to turn the pestle. Pestle is the bottom, is the bowl?
No, that's the mortar. The pestle is the
mortar. So
I use a pepper grinder usually.
I'm not sure how you're going to do it on a pepper grinder, but he says either to turn the mortar on its side so that you're not doing it like regular, efficiently, or to do it onto a plate instead of onto a bowl as you normally would. So if you're using a pepper grinder, I'm not sure how you're going to make a shinui.
Well, if usually you hold the pepper grinder and you turn the top. So going by what he's talking about, if you hold the top and turn the rest of the grinder, that would be an almost identical difference to what he suggests.
I hear what you're saying. Not 100% sure, but I hear it. Let me see if...
and if it's saying a small shinui, that certainly qualifies, I think.
Could be. I hear it. Let me reserve that for later when we do discuss grinding pepper on Shabbos and this Siman. So we'll hopefully revisit that.
Joseph.
Joseph is that.
One more.
Okay.
Easy, one more.
So I think that's it for my homework. And let us continue.
Next week, by the way,
yes,
is it worth looking at some of the differences between Shabbos and Yom Tov? Because you've got Shavuos coming up, and that's sort of topical, or does that mess with our schedule?
It's very topical, but there's so much to cover. So how do we even start?
All right, never mind.
What does the class say? Yossi is suggesting that we discuss the differences between Shabbos and Yom Tov for in honor of Shavuos next week. Sorry?
Both classes next Tuesday.
Okay, let's do it on Tuesday. Let's spend Tuesday on some of Hilchos Yom Tov. But again, it's so much to cover. One class won't do it justice, but Mitzvah Hashem, we can do it Tuesday next week.
We can start with the halachas of barbecues, because everyone does barbecues on Shavuos.
You do? Barbecues on Shavuos?
In Israel, I think they do, don't they?
Oh, really?
I think it's a very common thing.
Oh, yeah? Okay.
Nice weather. We're doing a barbecue second day Shavuos.
Okay. Nice. Okay. So, where were we? Does anybody know where we were?
Yeah, I think we did Gimel in the Alter Rebbe. I think we. I don't know if we got to the end of Gimel.
Gimel.
I think.
Or didn't we do Daled?
We did the end of Gimel already.
Okay, so do we do that?
Okay, let's do Daled and Alter Rebbe. Anything that salt helps it to change the nature of the substance is how he translates it here. I.e., the salt does not merely contribute to its flavor. To soften it, to harden it, or to sweeten its bitterness. All right, we're going to have to break from Ma'ariv here. Sorry to all of you who are long distance, wherever you may be. We're going to pick up in about 10 minutes. Sorry.
Okay. 11?
You got 11 or
We have 6 that didn't down. Yeah, thank you.
Not yet. 11's not here yet.
Oh, so I'll say.
We'll wait till 11 comes.
Oh, you down already?
No.
One or two. David, like down? Not 3, not 4, not 5. Not 6 and 7. Okay, we have.
It's busy, doesn't it? It's okay. Keep going.
He's busy. So what else, if you don't mind?
We can start. We got 10 for question.
Prokowski, on that one? Please, my voice is half dead. Okay. If you don't mind. Go ahead.
חלסטר עסוק, הוא עשה לי פנים, אז מספיק.
הנויץ וזימן סולנו יחסל נויץ וזימן סולנו יחסל עלי נויץ וזימן סולנו יחסל נויץ וזימן סולנו נויץ וזימן עלי נויץ שמחנים קראינו עלי נויץ שמחנים קראינו נויץ שמחנים ויין קראינו יסקדה שמיידה
אמן
יברח לזה ויחמח מפוסה ויחמח מפנה ויתעלה משיחה נחי לכל ישראל והגול ונקרינו אמן
אמן יש מרבה מורך לעולם הרבה המיה
ישתבח ויתראה ויתנשא ודאי זולת סלול שמות שבריך Amen.
ברוך אדוני יברך לעולם.
Yiskado, Nashmed Abba, Yam, Mahosi Yasan Kone, Bikari Mishicha, Israel, Bagal, Nankari, Yome,
Yashmir Alam, Maya.
but every time we say, there is alone, Shmin Butcher, Richo, Elohim, Hasishkasa, Yoshvechas, and Hamas Nami, Yom, you are made, Yam, place in the Busin Hobisok, and Rabbi Shmaya, you are made, Yesh, and Namishman, Hagan, you are made. It's a Shalom, name of the Yata Shalom, and you are so, you are made.
Do the same there. Last night was 38, right?
Mhm.
Can you help me out of here? Okay.
Yep.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kirishanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al sfiras ha'omer. Hayom tisha u'shloshim yom shem chamisha shavuot v'arba'a yamim la'omer.
And it's nothing with them.
Today, let's have it. Starting from Shabbos.
Don't make Kaddish because he's out. He went for a second.
Aleinu l'shaveh.
He left.
Don't have to say Kaddish?
No, he's coming. I don't know. He went out.
Shkoyach.
Yeshakor. Yom Borachim.
Amen.
מזל טוב. זכינו.
All right, gentlemen, thank you all for your patience. Let us continue.
Yep.
Okay. So, Kegoin's 9, for example, radish, or onions or garlic. I read somewhere that nobody really makes pickled garlic per se. But on the other hand, garlic is used to pickle other things. You know what I'm saying? Like you see in the pickles, sometimes you see garlic. You know what I'm saying? So therefore, garlic is also considered one of the foods that is pickled.
What?
Garlic is one of the foods that is considered a food that is normally pickled. Even though it's not pickled on its own, usually, but together with other things, it's added to add flavor. So it's considered a thing that is pickled. Drama harifim, the sharp
I'm
foods.
not gonna say that garlic is one that seem to be pickled.
But it's also pickled too. And people maybe even eat the pickled garlic. So it's both. Shekeshem shoyim b'melach emeziyim.
Where are you?
I'm in Dalit. I just started towards the beginning of Dalit and Alter Rebbe, yeah. When they stay in salt, they sweat. The yotze mirusim nasam kasha. And the bitterness comes out and they become harder because it takes out the liquid.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Since we're saying that it's like tanning and not cooking, why does it make a difference whether these things...
Wait. Got to stop you right there. It's a machloikis. Some say tanning, some say cooking. Go ahead.
Okay. If we say it's like tanning, not cooking, why are we concerned with what is typically better? Surely it's the actual act of putting salt on something to change it that's the issue, not the... So if I peel my cucumbers, it shouldn't make a difference. It's doing the same thing to the cucumber.
Well, the point is that when the leather yes, he's asking on what we said before, that if it's cut or if it's peeled or it doesn't, it's not the way it's normally pickled, so maybe it should be mutter. So I hear your question. I'm gonna venture to say, just in defense of those opinions, which I don't know if everybody agrees with them, honestly. I didn't see it in Rabbi Farkash, and I didn't see it in the Shmir Shabbos. I just saw it in the 39 Malachos. Exactly. So it's not done in a way that's pickling. If that's the way it's normally done, that's the way it's normally pickled, I'm saying, then it's a problem. So I'm just saying to defend what they're saying, you could say that perhaps the real pickling is not done in a matter of minutes. It takes a longer time to do it. So if it's a type of thing that is pickled, plus it is starting to actually sweat, so that's when they said that it looks like tanning. You understand? In other words, it's both things. It's the effect of it, but that effect is only accomplished in a longer term thing. But even a shorter term thing looks like it. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, so if you peel your cucumbers, you will definitely sweat them out. So why are we making the distinction between peeled and unpeeled cucumbers?
No, what I'm saying is, again, in defense of their opinion, which, I mean, it is a strong question of their opinion. So I wonder if everybody agrees with their opinion. But I'm just thinking maybe they are saying that if you would actually leave the cucumbers, the peeled cucumbers in salt enough to actually pickle, so that would be considered like actual tanning. That would be usser. But if you're just leaving it in for a few minutes, so therefore it's not changing it that much that it's actually similar to tanning. On the other hand, if it's a whole pickle with a peel, because that is the start of something that's normally done in a serious way, so that's already like the beginning of the process. You see what I'm saying?
Okay. So I get that. So even if you chop up a cucumber, you never pickle a cucumber in small pieces. So is that enough?
According to him, yeah, it would be the same thing.
Okay.
Again, it's a chiddush, and I'm not sure everybody signs on to it. So, v'chein poilin v'adashim shnesbashel b'kli pasan shamelach merakach hakoishi sheish b'hem etzad kli pasan. So too, beans and lentils that are cooked in their shells, salt softens the toughness as results from their shells. Now, this is unusual, by the way. I want to point it out. Most cooked vegetables, there is no pickling. There is no pickling because once it's cooked, the salt doesn't affect it in that way. Specifically, these things that they're still tough because they're cooked in their shells. So that's these are the things that are still affected by salt even after they're cooked. So too, fresh cucumbers. Chayin, shamelach moyelehen, that the salt helps. And kol davar shekim lasses min everything is normally made into pickles. It's forbidden to salt from them more than one piece. Notice he says piece. He's not talking about individual whole cucumbers or radishes. He's talking about pieces. Again, according to the opinion that says that we go by the way it's normally pickled, maybe in those days they used to pickle pieces. I don't know. In order to eat it immediately. If he's doing two together, how much more, so more than that. As a near kikovish question, it looks like he's pickling foods. If you look in note 19, he says that the Shabbos Kalacha that's over Farkash. I have a note in the English. He points out that the Shabbos Kalacha explains, based on this wording of the Alter Rebbe, that when you're doing two together or more, it's not the fact that it's going to actually sweat that makes it look like pickling. It's just the fact that you're doing two together. So even if you have two on a plate, two pieces on a plate, you salt them and you pick them both up at the same time, you put them in your mouth. You didn't leave it in the salt any more than if you did it with one. Doesn't make a difference. Because you're doing two together, you're doing like a group of vegetables, it already looks like pickling. There's two issues here. There's the way you salt it, and there's the amount of time you leave it in the salt. Each one is independently a problem. Okay, here's the second problem.
So if we leave one before it start to go to process, it's okay.
That's perfect. One
But not
for
two.
a short time is okay.
Not two.
Two
Short time
to
is okay?
pickle. One for a short time is okay. Two to salt them together is a problem.
Also for short time.
Even for a short time, if you salt them together. If you salt them separately, one here and one there, or you dip them in salt separately, we're going to have a machlokes right now, if you have to eat it right away, or if you can leave it for a short time. We're going to see. He's going to bring both opinions. Brings both opinions.
That's why he's holding, because if what Ovina is mentions it like pickling, but in the end of the Siman, he's talking about the Karadin, it's going to feel like it says if. So which one is the right one according to him?
Both. He brings both. I don't think he says Allah is like one or the other.
It's all this, why should we both?
It's also either way. What's the difference? Why?
No, just the reason.
He brings both reasons. I don't know if there's maybe in some cases there's an afkamina, but he brings both. The truth is, we're going to see. We're going to see the Alter Rebbe does, it is Mashal Alter Rebbe that the minhag is like one of the opinions. We're going to see. Even one piece of radish, or similar things, Also, the melech lashoisa habib melech kadesh itzmur achash taziyah kizod emalib. You're not allowed to dip one piece of radish into salt and leave it there in order for it to sweat. Sif Dalet, no, Sif Dalet, Shin Chof Aleph, Sif Dalet. You're not allowed to leave it out there long enough to sweat because that is like Ibud. This is the Trumas Hadeshin. He says you're allowed to dip many pieces one at a time and put it in front of you. And
which one is that?
yeah, this is the Chiddush of the Trumas Hadeshin. That you're allowed to dip several pieces, put it in front of you one at a time, and eat it. Even though they're going to stay there for a small amount of time, and they sweat a little bit, it's no problem.
Why not the other this like the
He's going to say V'yesh Oisrim. He's going to say V'yesh Oisrim in a minute. As long as you don't leave it in for a long amount of time. Even the same meal, from the beginning to the end of the meal. Which would make them sweat a lot. That's like Ibud. You cannot do it even with one piece alone. I just want to point out, even though he mentions dipping it into salt as opposed to salting them, the truth is the same applies to salting them, to pouring the salt on them. The only reason he says dipping is because normally I salt 5 or 6 pieces. It's going to happen that they're going to be salted together, which is a separate problem that it looks like you're making pickles. But if you actually spread them apart, one is here, there, and you salt them separately, so then it's the same as dipping in salt. And according to this opinion, you're allowed to do it as long as you eat it fairly soon.
Why does it have to be separate? It has to be on the same plate, but not touching each other.
Same plate is too close. Same plate is too. It says clearly that on the same plate, it's too hard to make sure that the salt is not going to fall from one to the other.
Fairly soon, it's meaning I can give to you and me and all the friends.
Yeah. Not Misha. Shah Mu'etes is okay. Zman Orach is not okay. The beginning of the meal to the end is already not okay. So maybe like an hour. An hour is too much. I don't know for sure that it means an hour, but I'm saying something like that. A long time is a problem. 5 minutes, 10 minutes is for sure not a problem, according to this opinion.
No, but this paragraph that you just read in the Siman Dalet.
Yeah.
It doesn't mention like the Yesh Omri and the Yesh Osre. It's all look like it's his lashon. So why say it like is that we call it Trumat Hadeshin? It's like compared like it should like it's his stuff. But then say like the Omri.
The Alter Rebbe doesn't usually tell you his sources. He just quotes them. But if you look in note Samach Hey, it says Trumas Hadeshin Sham. You're saying, why doesn't he say V'yesh Omrim? So here's a clown. Whenever it says one opinion b'stam and the other opinion b'shem yesh omrim, the main halacha is like the stam. So here he says this opinion, which is the Trumas Hadeshin, without saying yesh omrim. He says it's stam, like this is the halacha. And the next opinion, which is the strict opinion, I think it's the Orzarua, he says v'yesh oisrim. Some say. It means the main halacha is like the Trumas Hadeshin. That being said, the minhag is like the Orzarua. The halacha is like the Trumas Hadeshin. The minhag is like the Orzarua. Right? The Alter was going to say that the minhag is to be strict, not to do more than one at a time.
I do this by the way.
Yeah.
So you have to salt it and
salt it and eat it. Yeah. Yeah. And
the halacha said.
The minhag is to be strict. The main halacha, it seems, is la'akel. But the sorry.
So we follow the minhag?
Of course. Follow the minhag. Absolutely. Yesh oisim. The hashis klal b'melach afilu. Thank you. Yesh oisim. I think Sfardim are mekel, by the way, because the Mechaber is mashmei pasuk like the Trumas Hadeshin, but the Ashkenazim are machmer. V'yesh oisrim, and some are strict. Lahashis,
So also what, no?
this is also right, yeah. Lahashis klal b'melach afilu shamuah, just to leave it in salt even for a small amount of time. Afilu chaticha achas levada, even one piece alone. Also, you can't even dip two pieces, and then eat them one after the other. While you're eating one, takes a few seconds, chew, swallow, 5 seconds. It's already started to, the salt is already starting to do its work. Take it from a yad. It's only mutter, according to this opinion, to salt it and eat it right away. Pop it into your mouth. And this is the minhag v'chein hadin. The same thing applies to anything that the salt is helpful for. Okay, here. You were asking Ronnie about ibud or bishul. Here. Well, the feast for according to the second opinion, the reason that you're not allowed to do many together is not because it looks like pickling. That while you're eating the first one, the second one is gonna remain in its salt because the salt is helpful. I said, but it looks like ibud. Okay, actually, you didn't mention bishul. I take it back. So listen to this. Listen to this. Up until now, we said there's two separate issues. There's an issue with salting a bunch of vegetables together, regardless of how fast you eat it, because salting a bunch of vegetables together looks like pickling. Why is pickling us? Or because of ibud? But it looks like pickling. That's one issue. The second issue is actual ibud. Even one thing, one piece, if you leave it for a long time, it's ibud. Two separate issues. And according to that, if you do one separately, and you don't leave it for a long time, it's okay. If you do a bunch of them together, even if 10 people you're going to salt it, and there's 10 people there, they're each going to grab a piece and eat it. It's not going to take any time. It doesn't make a difference. You're doing a bunch together. It looks like pickling. That's all the first opinion. The second opinion says that you can't wait at all after you salt it. You have to eat it right away because even the small amount of time that it starts to salt is already considered pickling. And according to that, the reason that you can't salt two together is not because the act of salting two together looks like pickling. No. It's because when you salt two together, you're going to have to eat one after the other. By the time you eat the first one, the second one will have sweated. So it's not about the issue of doing it together. It's just a technical problem. That's going to take you a longer time to eat it. But according to this, if you would have 10 people ready, everybody's ready, salt, and everybody grabs a piece and eats it, we'll be okay.
Pickle usually done in big quantity.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that anything that's done in big quantity, some of us listen to do it in small quantity. Because usually done in big quantity.
Talking about Yantiv? Lo zocher. When did I say that? On Yantiv. And Yantiv, any malacha that is normally done in big quantities, the Chacham said you can't do it even in small quantities on Yantiv.
To pick one piece on Yantiv, even to something, because it's done in quantity.
Are you allowed to? Well, if you're allowed to do it on Shabbos, you're for sure allowed to do it on Yantiv.
So what is it something that's done in big quantity?
That's not talking about the Isurim D'Rabbanan. It's talking about the Isurim D'Oraisa. We have 39 malachas, right? So which of the malachas are mutter on Yantiv? First of all, the ones that are done for Eichel Nefesh, right? The ones that are not Eichel Nefesh are not even shaykh. You know what I'm saying? Making clothes and building a house, that's not even shaykh. But even the ones that are Eichel Nefesh, the ones that are normally done in big quantities, that the Chachamim said not to do on Yantiv, because you may end up doing work for many days instead of just any
So I asked you this question that usually squeezing bread done in big quantity.
I'm talking about malachas. There's 39 melachas, right? So, one second. There's 39 melachas. So the melachas that are done in big quantities, you can't do in small quantities on Yantav. Squeezing grapes into food is not a malacha. It's heter gomer. Understand? The fact that some people squeeze grapes into wine in big quantities has nothing to do with what you're doing, because you're not doing a malacha. No, halachically, it's not the same action. Halachically, squeezing a grape into a salad is like cutting a grape into two. That's the halacha, because when liquid comes into a solid to flavor it, it has the halacha of oichel. Mashkan haboim la'oichlin ka'oichlin. So it's like food. It looks like drink, smells like it, tastes like it, but it's not.
Is it the same? But it's not the same as doing a lemon, squeezing a lemon, is it?
Same thing. Well, lemon is not the raisa, but the same thing. If you squeeze a lemon into food, it's not considered a drink. It's considered like food. Yeah, same idea.
But you said you could squeeze the grape into wine. So.
No, I didn't.
Oh, you didn't? Oh, okay. You can just.
Absolutely not. That's a Torah violation.
Oh, okay.
You can squeeze a grape into a salad,
right?
Or into any solid food to flavor it. Okay.
Oh, I had one other question. The opinion here where it said it's customary to follow the ruling where you don't you can only do one at a time. Is that the Or Zarua right there? Yeah,
that's the Or Zarua. I just want to explain what I'm saying, Ronnie. The point is, when I said about Hilchos Yontif, that when something's done in large quantities, you can't do it in small quantities. I'm talking about the same action. The same action. You're talking about two different things. You're talking about squeezing a grape into salad and squeezing grapes into wine. That's what you're asking. No, that's what you're asking. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about taking grain that's growing in the field and cutting it. Same action. Normally, when you harvest your field, you harvest the whole field. On Yontif, I'm not going to harvest my whole field. Why would I do that? All I need is to make bread. I'm going to take a little corner. I'm going to take it to the mill. Normally, when I grind my flour, my wheat into flour, I do a whole batch. It's Yontif. I have guests. I don't have time for it. I'm just going to make a little bit of flour for my bread. Grind. You understand? I'm just going to do a little bit of threshing for my bread. But all of these things are done in big quantities. Usually, the Chacham said, no, you can't do any of that. You understand? It's the same exact thing done in small or in big quantities. That's what I'm talking about. No problem. Okay. Yeah, but it's a different. There, it's different. It's a different way of doing it. Okay, lefikach. Here's a very important line, my friend. This lefikach answers a question that the Achronim have, and I guess they just didn't notice this lefikach in the Alter Rebbe. Because, but before I continue, I'll just say the question. We said yesterday that you can salt a salad as long as you pour on the dressing right away, because the dressing is gonna break the power of the salt, right? So that explains why it's not considered that you're pickling, because you're not leaving the salt on the vegetables to affect it for any length of time. But the question is, what about the fact that you salted it? At the moment you salted it, you were salting a whole bunch of vegetables at the same time. So what if a second later you pour it in? You already look like you're pickling at that moment. How do you save it later? Not always. We get these jars that have pickles and like pickled cucumbers and peppers, carrots, and garlic. You know what I'm saying? These little jars. Anybody know what I'm talking about? It has all those, that combination.
Yes.
And I've seen also with baby corn put in. I mean,
yeah,
people make mixes. But anyway, here's the thing. The Alter Rebbe says, lefikach, in reference to this opinion. According to the Or Zarua, who says that you can't leave it in salt at all. According to him, the issue with salting 2 pieces is not because salting 2 pieces looks like pickling, but it's just a technicality that if you salt 2 pieces, it's going to end up sweating. There's nothing about salting 2 pieces essentially, there's nothing about salting 2 pieces essentially that looks like pickling. It's just the fact that it's going to sweat. So if you pour the liquid on right away, you're okay. You understand? That's lafika, the Alter Rebbe says. In other words, the truth is that according to the opinion that says that you're not allowed to salt pieces because the actual salting pieces looks like pickling, you're not allowed to do this. You have to put the salad dressing on the salad first and only then put the salt after. But because of the Or Zarua's opinion, therefore people are lenient and they'll put the salt on first and then the dressing. This is the basis of their leniency. Yeah.
That should be a shiur, more like a zayin or something. The salad's going to be much smaller than shiurs that we're talking about.
Right. I don't know. I didn't see any shear. Except what I said before, that the Third Malacha says that if it's a piece that is not normally, if it's a type of vegetable that's not normally pickled in pieces, then maybe it doesn't apply. But there's no specific shear. It just depends on the way it's pickled. Based on this, when they cut the radish very thin and they put it in a bowl and they salt it and they pour vinegar on it, there's no problem. Even though it looks like you're salting a bunch together, which is also even to eat immediately. I'm sorry?
When they put all the stuff together, then it's okay?
Yeah, it's okay because you're adding the chometz, you're adding the vinegar. So it breaks up the power of the salt. They don't leave it in salt at all alone. They pour right away vinegar on it and other things. But it doesn't look like ibud. Now, the fact that it's in vinegar, we said before, is because it's not actually pickled in the vinegar. It's not sitting in it. It's just like a dressing.
You can put a menu, whatever you like.
Sorry?
The amount, it doesn't count?
For one meal. For one meal. Anyway, you can't cut vegetables very thin for more than one meal, because you're not going to cut the vegetables thin.
50 guests.
Okay, it's for one meal.
What is it when says the Hashem should not put it on the
That's always 500.
No, it's brought from before.
Can we learn from this save, this part, that it's not a problem to cut something very, very thin?
No, that we're going to see later. That you have to do it right before, and you should do it a little bit thicker than usual. He's just quoting the minhag, mashanogu. He's explaining the minhag. He's not saying that this is the best.
That is the right thing.
Yeah, there's a reason for the minhag. There's an explanation for the minhag. That's what he's saying. How much more so if you pour oil on it? Just to address what you're saying, because some say that as long as you do it right before eating, you're allowed to do it very thin. Alter Rebbe says it's better not to. Better to make it up for the meal and a little bit bigger than usual. But some allow it right before the meal as soon as you want. So this minhag is following that opinion. That's what it seems. However, you have to make sure to pour on the oil or the vinegar immediately after the salting. Exactly. I'm going to read note.
It have to be vinegar or oil, it can be lemon juice.
No, same thing.
Any liquid?
Any liquid. I'm going to read note 22 because it's important. The laws mentioned here are relevant with regard to the preparation of salads and Shabbos. According to the stringent perspective that the Alter Rebbe says should be followed, it is forbidden to salt vegetables and then serve them unless one mixes oil and or vinegar with the salad immediately after adding the salt. There's also room for leniency if salting is not beneficial for those vegetables and is not common to pickle them. Thus, according to Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, one may salt slices of tomatoes, since nowadays it is very uncommon to pickle sliced tomatoes. It is also permissible to add salt to salad that already has oil or vinegar on it, since, as mentioned, these substances weaken the effect of the salt. I'm sorry? He calls it salatin, which I assume means lettuce. Yeah. They salt it first, and they leave it like that. And then they remove the water. And then they add the oil and the vinegar. That's absolutely forbidden. That looks even more like pickling. They would salt it, wait for the salt to pull out all the liquid, remove the liquid, and only then would they add the oil and the vinegar. That's major ibud. So that's not allowed. You always have to add the liquid right away to the salt. Kol dover, I want to move right ahead with hay. Kol dover she'ena melech moile l'shanas tivoi. Elishu noisin beitam belvad. Anything that the salt does not actually change the nature of its substance, but it just changes the taste. Going beitza ubasar, like a cooked egg, cooked meat. And he doesn't say cooked, but that's what he means, because we already said before that raw meat could be a problem. Mutter lamolchan, it's allowed to salt them. Nevertheless, aslam loyach kedei lahaniach l'suda acheres. You're not allowed to salt it for the purpose of leaving it for the next meal. Yesh mishamer, some say shemiyesh is a tzad shetoiv lo sheyam lecheno achshav mashim lecheno achar כך samuch la'achila v'chashul cham k'tzas v'yikav la'melach toiv yoyso enis b'davar v'shesmol duem la'ak b'dir seifim tzach lekach. Okay, some say that the only reason that we don't want you to do it is just because it's an extra tircha for no reason. But if there's a reason for it, then it's not a problem. For example, right now the meat is warm or even hot, because really Meikar Adin salt you can put on a kli sheni, even a kli rishon, Meikar Adin, or whatever, without getting into that bishul issue. It's hot or it's warm, and if you salt it now, the salt is going to get spread much better. Yeah, you all know about that, right? When you salt something, we discussed it when we learned bishul. When you salt something that's hot, the salt spreads out much better than if you salt something that's cold. So you want to salt it now, not because stam. You have a good reason to salt it now, because now the effect of the salt is going to be much better. So then you're allowed to do it even in advance. In other words, according to this opinion, there's nothing about salting meat, cooked meat, or eggs, or anything like that that doesn't get pickled. There's nothing that resembles ibud at all. In theory, you could do it, whenever you want on Shabbos, except that it's an unnecessary tircha. We don't want you to do it. But if there's a reason to do it now, then it's allowed. And the Alter Rebbe says you can rely on them if there's a need to do that. Okay, moving right along with Vav.
So in this case, is the food already cooked? So that's why we don't care about putting the salt on?
Exactly. The food is cooked, and therefore it doesn't look like pickling, because you don't pickle cooked meat or eggs or anything like that, or most cooked vegetables for that matter. You're allowed to pour water on cut vegetables, cut meaning to say not attached to the ground, in order that they should not wilt. Listen very carefully to this chiddush. The vegetables are wilting. You want to pour water on them. Wilting, they're going softening, they're looking schwach. You want to put water on them to give them some life, to spruce them up a little bit. You're not planning to eat them on Shabbos necessarily. You're still allowed to do it on Shabbos. Why? Since they're fit for Shabbos, so they're not muktzah. You're allowed to put water on them. You're not preparing. Listen carefully. This is an interesting point. You're not preparing specifically them for after Shabbos. They're going bad. You want to save them going bad. And they're fit for Shabbos if you would want to. So that's not considered a
But you have to
preparation.
have the intent that maybe you're going to have them on
No.
Shabbos or not.
No.
You
Just,
can have the absolute intent that they're going to be for.
well, you don't have, they're for whatever. But the fact is, they're fit for Shabbos, and your intention is not specifically to prepare. Your intention is to save them. They're going bad. So that's not a problem. If they're not fit for eating, so they're muktzah, then you cannot. Listen carefully. Okay, everybody knows that you have to salt meat within 3 days after it's shechted. And if you don't know that, you should know that. The reason for that is that if you don't salt it within 3 days, i.e. 72 hours, the blood cannot be effectively removed with salt. And the only way that you'll be able to remove the blood is by roasting it on an open flame. Right, you have to roast it, exactly. So if you want to extend the life of the meat, to be able to salt it, you can soak it in water to keep it soft, and that'll extend it by another 72 hours.
So 72, then.
Another 72, exactly.
Would that be bad?
I don't know, keep it in the fridge, freezer, that's a separate issue. That is a separate issue. As far as salting, this is what it is.
If it's not edible now, it's going to be
Okay, so here's Alter Rebbe. If it is not edible because it's too hard to eat, there are some meats that are soft, maybe you can eat them raw. But if it's too hard to eat raw, it's muktzah. Some people eat raw meat. Steak tartare, they call it. I'm just saying, some people do. But if it's not fit for eating...
I make steak tartare and carpaccio.
Me? No.
No, I said I make steak tartare.
Okay, there you have it. So if it's not fit to be eaten raw because it's too hard, so then there's no heter because you're basically saving a muktzah item which is not fit for the day. Now listen to this. Even if it is soft and it's fit to be eaten raw, you shouldn't be lenient. Since you don't in fact want to eat it today, you're still considered to be preparing for Shabbos the weekdays. It's not like vegetables, which are fit for anybody to eat. It doesn't look like you're preparing for Shabbos the weekday. Maybe you'll actually eat them. Not so with this raw meat, that it's not good for the average person. Some people will eat it. He translates it as a person with a strong constitution will eat it. Most people cook it first. It looks like you're preparing for Shabbos the weekday. Again, when you're pouring water on the vegetables, A, you might eat it, and B, anybody that looks doesn't see that you're preparing for after Shabbos. He sees you're extending the life of the vegetables. Maybe you want it for Shal Shudas. Who knows what? Nobody knows. But when it comes to the raw meat, 99% of the people don't eat raw meat. Okay, 1% does. That's enough for it not to be muktzah. But that's not enough for it not to look like you're preparing for the weekday, because the fact is everybody doesn't eat it on Shabbos. So they see you extending the life of something that is not for Shabbos. It looks like you're preparing for after Shabbos. It's very strict here. Even with a goy, you can't be lenient. What is it already? It's an Issa D'Rabbanan. To make the goy pour water on it. You just want to pour water on it. That's all. Big deal. You have meat. It's sitting in the fridge. If you don't pour water on it, it's going to be no good for salting and cooking. You're going to have to roast it. All you want the goy is to come in, pour water on it, finished. No. Why not? It's a shvus to shvus. It's a shvus to shvus. Toireach mishabas l'choel through a goy. Big deal. No. You're allowed to ask a guy to do something for a great loss if it's a D'Rabbanan. Like we're going to see, or like we saw in ancient Zion. My friends, what's the financial loss here? The meat's not going to be bad. It just means he won't be able to cook it. I'll have to roast it. Big deal.
In other words, he can't salt it, but he can roast it.
He can roast it. When you roast, you don't have to salt it. You salt it very lightly.
And that's okay to do after 3 days.
That's okay to do after 3 days because the power of the fire extracts the blood even after 3 days. The salt doesn't have that power, but the fire does. So that's what it is. So because it's not a big difference to him, so therefore he can't even ask a goy to do it. Now the Mishnah Berurah points out if he's a butcher, so for him to be able to sell it, he has to be able to sell meat that the people can cook however they want. For him to sell meat that can only be roasted and not cooked, he has to sell it at a great discount. That's a financial loss. So a butcher would be allowed to ask a goy to soak it.
If you run barbecue now, barbecue because there's going to be blood going into it. Also the utensils as well. It should be, from now you have to be separate, right?
Yeah, or kasher them after.
Kasher after.
Yeah. Like liver has separate utensils.
Yes.
All right, my friends, to be continued. Monday we'll continue about this, and Mr. Shem. Tuesday we'll take a little Hilchos break.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Pleasure. Have a good night.
Okay, thank you. Good night.